as well. Yeah, I thank everyone today for taking your precious time and joining us for the mini summit, first of ours in 2021. Uh, I'd like to ask Sujit, the chairperson of European Center for Business and Industry, to officially invite all the guests and to briefly explain the Europe India 40 views, why we are doing this program. Sujit?
Hello, all. Greetings of the day. Thank you, Arun. Uh, as Arun mentioned, my name is Sujit Nair. I'm the chairman of the Europe India Center for Business Industry. We are a multilateral trade body and in association with various partner organizations. We have been playing a key role in promoting closer trade relations between India, EU, and UK over the past 10 years. We have organized 24 major summits in Europe, 22 at the British Parliament in London, two summits at the European Parliament in Brussels, whereby EICBI and our delivery partners have engaged more than 3,240 delegates from 2,190 companies. These summits have provided an opportunity for British MPs, European MEPs, and Indian lawmakers to not only get to know each other, but also engage in discussions with companies which are planning to expand into these regions. We have also organized numerous delegation visits to India, which have provided opportunities for British MPs and companies to get an understanding of India at the grassroots level. We release an annual listing of top 40 under 40 leaders called Europe India 40. And this listing includes leaders from UK India corridor and EU India corridor who are not only doing great work in promoting EU India relationship and UK India relationship. Europe India 40 list covers the stories of young leaders and their contributions in promoting EU India, UK India relations. We believe what really play a key role in developing a stronger EU India, UK India relations when compared to other factors of leadership. Young leaders with bright minds who are not just seeking personal profit, but are also committing to fostering closer cooperation between India and the EU and India and the UK. From an experience of playing a key role in promoting EU-India, UK-India relation over the last decade, we can proudly say that the future of EU-India, UK-India relations looks very exciting as a new brand of young leaders is emerging from both sides. EACBI is proud to acknowledge the contribution of these leaders who play an important role in shaping EU-India, UK-India trade relations during the next few decades. The 2019 class of EU-India leaders, at that time UK was still officially part of the EU then, was released on 10th April 2019 at the European Parliament in Brussels. This included leaders who have been playing a key role in promoting EU-India and UK-India trade and relation. This 2019 class of leaders included 16 women and 24 men from all walks of life and represented 16 different nationalities. The 2020 class of Europe 40 under 40 Europe India leaders list, which we call the Europe India 40 now, considering that when we mention Europe India, our Europe includes EU and UK. Was released virtually on 27th November last year as the coronavirus pandemic had affected our plans to have a physical event in the year. For the virtual release ceremony, we had leaders from the British Parliament, European Parliament, and Indian Parliament who participated in the ceremony. The 14 women and 26 men who made it to a 2020 class of Europe India 40 list comes from all walks of life and represent 19 different nationalities. As part of our initiative to promote the works of the Europe India 40 leaders, we are currently carrying out this campaign, which we call as the Europe India 40 Views. Hear from the leaders who will shape the future of UK India EU India relations. One of the activities for the campaign is a series of 4 virtual mini summits, which focuses on various topics which Europe India 40 leaders are passionate about, so as to share their message and work to a wider audience. In the first mini summit of the Europe India Views campaign is this summit, where we will get to hear from current leaders and Europe India 40 leaders about their views on the impact of Brexit on UK India and EU India relations. I'm glad to have current leaders from the Indian Parliament, European Parliament, and UK Parliament participating in this discussion. From the Indian Parliament, we have Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi, who is also the member of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs, and Mr. Achyuta Samanta, the Indian MP, who was the member of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs. From the UK Parliament, we have Lord Moylan, the member of the House of Lords, UK Parliament, and former Deputy Chairman of the Transport for London under Mayor Boris Johnson. From the European Parliament, we have Ms. Ursa, who is a policy advisor on EU-India relations. From our Europe India 40 leaders list, we have Dr. Jiten Sharma from India, who is the Managing Director and CEO, Andhra Pradesh MedTech Zone. Mr. Adam Pastelnik from Poland, who is the Deputy Mayor of the City of Lords. Ms. Shirey Malhotra from India, who is the Associate Researcher, European Institute for Asian Studies, and Councillor Aryan Uday from United Kingdom, who is the elected councillor for Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. We were also expecting Ms. Alina from Lithuania to participate in this discussion, but I believe that due to an emergency, she may not be able to join us. I would now request Arun to take forward the discussion.
Arun, unmute.
Thank you very much, Sujit, for introducing briefly all the current and the leaders who have made it to our list. I would now request Councillor Aryan Uday Areti from the Borough of Kensington and Chelsea to officially introduce Lord Moylan. Thank you, Aryan.
Thank you, Arun and Sujit, for a great introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, distinguished guests, Member of Parliament, panel speakers, and delegates. I now have the privilege to invite today's guest speaker, Lord Moylan, on impact of Brexit on UK and India, EU and India relations. Before we jump to Lord Moylan's speech, I would like to give a brief introduction about him. This is a very short and brief introduction about Lord Moylan. I have to cut short a lot of his roles and positions in the past. Lord Moylan is a Conservative peer and a member of House of Lords, the upper house of the UK Parliament. He was the former councillor and deputy leader of Kensington Chelsea Council, an officer of London Councils, and a former deputy chairman of Transport for London, as well as the advisor to Mayor Boris Johnson. This was when the current Prime Minister Boris Johnson was the Mayor of London. He became the chairman of Tube Lines Holding Limited when it was acquired by TfL, and was later the first chairman of Crossrail to one of the Europe's largest infrastructure projects. He was also a non-executive director of Crossrail Limited and served as a chairman of London Legacy Development Corporation during the London 2012 Olympics and Paralympic Games. Lord Moylan was educated at Oxford Queen's College and was the president of Oxford Union in 1978, and briefly served in Foreign and Commonwealth Office primarily in South Africa before becoming an investment banker. As a member of House of Lords, he takes a particular interest in Brexit, especially its effects on relations with Ireland and Northern Ireland, and broader international relations, as well as in transport, infrastructure, and planning. Finally, he's a proud Brexiteer, believer in Brexit, a Brexit campaigner who campaigned alongside with the current Prime Minister Boris Johnson, Member of Parliament, and many ministers. Well, that's a brief introduction about Lord Moylan, and we look forward to his speech. And now I welcome him to the Zoom stage. Lord Moylan, it's all yours.
Well, thank you very much indeed. And may I start by thanking the Europe-India Centre for Business and Industry, chaired by Sujit Nair, and Vice Chairman yourself, Aryan Uday Areti. You've made yourself as an organization a really important link between two continents in promoting trade and business and leadership, especially amongst rising leaders. And can I also say what a privilege it is to be on a panel with such distinguished people as Ursa Pondelek and Adam Pustelnik and Mr. Achyuta, Samanta and Priyanka Chaturvedi, who are here going to be speaking immediately after me. It's a great privilege for us all to be here, I'm sure, with such a distinguished audience. I'm going to take a very British perspective on British-Indian relations, and others will talk about the EU post-Brexit. But I thought we should start with a look back very quickly over the last 70 or so years. And in that time, an independent India has made huge transformations of its agriculture. It has become an industrial superpower, and it's now one of the leading players in the tech revolution. And while retaining its national characteristics, including its hallowed democracy, India has made fantastic economic progress. Now, I say that because it's important to remember also that the United Kingdom has changed enormously over the same period. We are a very different country from what we used to be. And those changes are often ignored by commentators. 70 years ago, we were a country focused on the extraction of natural resources, with a strong manufacturing base and a society divided clearly between a large, mostly unionized industrial workforce and a small managerial class. We were subject to heavy regulation and central direction. We were also in decline. Thanks to the dramatic reorganization of the economy effected by Mrs. Thatcher, we are now an economy based much more on services, and we are more globalized, and our social divisions, or the ones we talk about, are more concerned with identity and grappling with the consequences of globalization than with class and economic standing. So Britain has changed enormously too. And that has to bring us to Brexit. I was, as Arian has said, a passionate supporter, and I remain a passionate supporter of Brexit. The first reason was to rescue our democratic self-government. That is something that Indians will be very understanding of, given the firm commitment to democracy the country has shown. The second reason is a little bit more of a gamble, but it concerns the future economic growth prospects of the EU. I want to see the EU succeed economically because that's good for the whole world, but its track record on growth and innovation is not inspiring, and its monetary arrangements are highly stressed. Of course, the EU can fix all of these things, and as I say, I hope they do, but it is possible, worth a gamble at least, that the UK can do better outside the bloc. There is a further reason of particular importance to India, and that is foreign relations. Outside of the Middle East, the key threats to democratic stability at the moment, and for some time to come, are Russia and China. The whole democratic world is agreed on this. China policy is the one thing that unites Trump and Biden, for example. But the EU is a notable outlier on this. It is cozying up to China with a new investment agreement, and Germany in particular looks very forgivingly on Russia's aberrations. The Nord Stream pipeline is a prominent example, but it is also worth looking up the history of favorable remarks about Russia made in the past by the new leader of Germany's main governing party, Armin Laschet, elected leader of Germany's Christian Democrats last weekend. So with that strategic and political background, we come to thinking about the UK's and India's view of future relations with each other. We already have a strong and growing trade relationship. In the year before the pandemic hit, bilateral trade between India and the UK grew at a vibrant 11%. Our investment relations support over 500,000 jobs in each other's economies, including many UK jobs in tech and telecoms. We also have a strong and well-established series of joint fora in which the two governments discuss future trade. The Joint Economic and Trade Committee had its 14th annual meeting in July 2020, attended by the Indian Minister of Railways and Commerce and Industry and the UK's Secretary of State for International Trade. The 10th India-UK Economic and Financial Dialogue took place on the 28th of October 2020. And at this meeting, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rishi Sunak, and the Indian Finance Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, reached several agreements on the UK-India economic relationship. And the British Foreign and Commonwealth Secretary visited India in December. And of course, sadly, it is only because of the pandemic that our Prime Minister was forced to postpone his visit to India this month. It would significantly have been his first foreign trip after delivering Brexit. Now, of course, all of these encounters in the past few months have produced individual initiatives, the details of which I shan't bore you with. They tend to cluster in the areas of food and drink, financial services, high tech, and infrastructure investment. We have a lot to offer each other in all of these areas. The immediate agreed ambition is what is being referred to as an enhanced economic partnership, which in due course could lead to a full free trade agreement. That approach shows that the UK on its own can move fast and flexibly to make partial agreements that can achieve easy wins for both sides. And that should make it an attractive negotiating partner for India. There will, of course, be more to the many shared strategic concerns, which could allow a degree of cooperation while respecting India's neutrality. We have much that we have borrowed from each other culturally, and of course, British people of Indian descent play an important role in our politics and culture. At the moment, both countries are grappling with the terrible effects of the pandemic. Both are leading the world in finding a way out of it through mass vaccination. When that is behind us, however, I am confident of an ever deeper relationship that can be promoted and will benefit both of our countries. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you a lot, Moylan. That's such a great, wonderful insight and opinions and your analysis on Brexit, the future relations between India and UK. Just quickly before you disappear, following Brexit, one quick question, basically. We just want to know your opinion. I know you're passionate Brexit here. Do you think India has definitely a upper hand following Brexit on the European Union? Because obviously India would directly deal with the UK in terms of a trade relationship. But would that really impact EU-India relations by any means? Because we've got a massive historic ties. We share same values. Democracy is a great thing between two nations. So what do you think? Would EU and India relations would spoil, or would it benefit, or would UK benefit a lot? Would India benefit a lot? Just to give you an insight.
Oh, I don't think India's relationships with the European Union will be damaged or changed at all by Brexit. I think obviously the European Union is a smaller European Union than it was before, but it's still a very significant economic power. And I think that India will continue to work with it. I think what will be different is the manner of working compared to working with Britain, because as I said, Britain on its own can react very fast and flexibly, whereas, as most people know, I think it's fair to say, negotiating with the European Union can be, especially negotiating a free trade agreement, can be a very long and slow process because there are so many interests, so many governments, so many parties that have to be taken account of on the European side. But I don't think that India's relations with the EU are going to be less important in future than they have been in the past. And I'm sure they will flourish as well. I hope they do. I'm a great believer in free trade.
All right, thank you very much, Moylan, and thank you for your presence today. And we look forward to working with you in the future, and maybe possible an India trip with Prime Minister Boris Johnson, I hope.
That would be tremendous if he asked me, yes. Thank you very much indeed for having me.
Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
See you soon. Arun, that's you, Arun. You can take over now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Areti, and Miss Ursa Pondelek. If I may bring your attention to the stage. Miss Ursa Pondelek has been on our stage multiple times, and the early times where she addressed was within the premises of the EU Parliament in Brussels. And I would like to invite Ms. Ursa Pondelek policy advisor on EU-India relations from the European Parliament, to express her points of view on impact of Brexit on EU-India relations. Ma'am.
Thank you very much. A warm welcome here from Brussels, from my side, and also from my side, many thanks to the fellow panelists and especially to the organizers. Our regular business summits of Europe-India under 40 leaders are the right path forward to release this untapped potential of the EU-India trade and investment relations. As strategic partners, India and the European Union have been negotiating a trade and investment agreement since 2007, but reached deadlock over a number of unresolved issues in 2013. Prospects for an agreement then dimmed further, unfortunately, in March 2017, when India terminated bilateral investment treaties with dozens of countries, including most of the EU member states. Now India wants countries to sign new trade agreements and investment agreements based on a new model from 2015, which in the view of our European Union at the current forum would reduce protection of foreign investors. As we know, for India, the EU is the largest trading partner. In trading goods, we see a slight decrease compared to the previous year, which is also a result of Brexit. So now EU is making 11% of total India trade, and before the share, before Brexit, was 13%. So it's around 2%, but this may be also because of other reasons of economic downfall. And in turn, India is only 9th commercial partner for trading goods for the EU. And here, India, unfortunately now fell even to 10th place, since the UK entered in the ranking as a separate country after Brexit. Both imports from and exports to India, here, this is really a number that we all wish to change, because both imports and exports to India from the EU account for less than 2% of respective totals for the EU. And this is really, really little share. There are some 6,000 European companies present in India, providing almost 2 million jobs directly and further 5 million indirectly in a broad range of sectors. So considering the size of two economies, these figures are really evidence of untapped potential. Both imports and exports of goods that I mentioned are stagnating for some time over this mere 2% of all the EU partners. And here, what is worrying is that compared with the flows with China, which is now the main EU trade partner together with the US, trading goods in Beijing for the EU is, can you imagine, 7 times larger than trading goods in India, while trading services with China is almost 3 times higher. Despite the number of companies in India, EU's investment is basically 2.5 times, almost 3 times higher in China than in India. What is good news is that in July of last year, there was a summit EU-India, and both sides agreed to establish a high-level dialogue at ministerial level on bilateral trade and investment issues. Because one thing is negotiating trade and investment agreement, but EU and India work together in so many different areas, in so many different forums. And one of them is also the World Trade Organization, where they are very close partners, because for both EU and India, the multilateral approach is the one that is the most important. That was always our preferred, and India's and the EU's. It's only when the Doha round was put in deep freeze that we actually started this path of bilateral trade agreements. But our really preferred view is and has always been, and it still is, and now there is a renewed hope because of the wind of change on the other side of Atlantic, is really to have the multilateral approach. And here India is one of our main allies, and there is also very good cooperation in G20. And as far as the trade agreements is concerned, we all know the governments, the institutions move slowly. With trade negotiations, we were told in the parliament so many times, like in 2012 and 13, but now there is a window opportunity to conclude, just wait 2 more months, and there is another window opportunity. So we need these windows to be bigger, and opportunities to be bigger. And this is actually the chance of EU-India leaders, of people like you, to actually push our decision makers to move forward. And sometimes institutions work slowly, but the businesses are always one step ahead. And this is your honor and responsibility to do so. There is a misconception that tariffs target sometimes let's keep tariffs because they target foreign businesses and our local companies will be able to benefit. And this is a wrong misconception. And the second misconception is that products made at home, by doing this, we save money, we strengthen our own economy, and we create jobs. It's a tempting argument, but it's not true. A basic principle of trade is that of comparative advantage, that specialization is more efficient and it's increasingly forgotten. And tariffs are not the answer to the transformation of global economy. They are rarely the answer to anything. They are just equivalent of shooting yourself in the foot to hurt the shoe salesman. And as we know, trade agreements today are also not just tariffs. And here, India in the last years also made a lot of step forward. Tariffs are not as high as they were, and say for European Union. So what is now discussed a lot is also rules, disciplines, and standards. When I started to work in trade field, we were speaking about pure free trade agreements. But today we use more and more words. So it's today, now we say open, fair, balanced, rules-based trade agreements. And trading without a trade agreement is not just trading with higher tariffs, it's also trading without rules and proper protection for our companies and consumers. And while the EU is now concluding an important investment agreement with China, India should definitely not stay behind. For the EU, enhancing trade and investment with India, the biggest democracy in the world, would be an absolute honor, and it's a must. It also means freer movement for our people, for cultures, different ideas. All this richness, inclusion of diversity has shown to lead to increased organizational effectiveness and resilience. If you remember, when at the turn of the 16th century, Giordano Bruno was burnt alive in Campo dei Fiori by the Pope in Italy. In India, the great Mughal Akbar had accomplished his large project of legally codifying minority rights, including religious freedom for all. And the power of India has to be based and is based on its rich variety, similar to the beauty of its colorful style. And it's exactly with this shining India, the biggest democracy in the world, that we like and we wish to make trade. And let's hope also that the conferences like ours will also contribute to that. Many thanks.
Thanks a lot, Ms. Ursa Pondelek, and we are very happy to have you here on our stage and for your comments. And all of them have been noted, and we will come back for questions later. In the meantime, I would like to call our Honorable Member of Parliament, Dr. Achyuta Samantaji, to come onto the stage and please express your points of view, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody present here, particularly our Honorable Member of Parliament from the House of Lords and also from the Indian Parliament, and all the distinguished personalities, particularly our respected Sri Sujit Nayarji, Chairperson of the Europe-India Center for Business and Industry. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. I am Professor Achyuta Sharma. I am particularly in education and the social service line working for the last 30 years. So I am not so good in this aspect, but still my small knowledge will definitely speak few words with respect to relation between the India, UK and India, EU post Brexit. So before starting, let me relate it to primacy of the national interest. As we all know, in international relations, there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. Only one thing is permanent, and that is the national interest. And Brexit is way of pretense way to protect its national interest. Optimism through interdependence in a global world, states and their fortunes are related and tied together. Higher trade relations improves the balance between the nations. I'll try to explain in two parts. UK finally existed on 31st January 2020. It was a long awaited historical move that brings an important change in the policy and politics of the remaining EU members states and also the UK mainly. It becomes important to see how this will shift the policymaking process and what are the ways in which nations are going to tackle it. Impact on India trade. India UK trade will get a boost. The stringent regulations of the European Union, which are the biggest obstacle, can be done away with. For example, I can say the European Union has banned Alfonso mangoes from India after it reportedly found fruit flies in the consignments. The weakening of the pounds will also be advantageous for Indian imports. It will also benefit tourists and the Indian students studying in the UK. Indian businessmen in the UK may find it hard access the single markets of European Union since their products may become uncompetitive if they are asked to pay import duties upon entering the EU. Thus, Indian business will not be able to utilize the UK as the gateway to the European Union. Indian IT firms, which have considerable exposure to the European markets, particularly the UK, will be affected since there is a risk of a decrease in growth levels in the EU and UK. Tourism, due to the weakening of the pounds, there will be decrease in tourist flow into India from Britain also. Immigration after Brexit, it is expected that there will be more restriction on immigration in the United Kingdom, thus affecting Indian immigration. And Brexit will affect the flow of foreign direct investment in India. It will result in financial instability and a legal regime overhaul in the long term. Indian students, particularly in the UK, will get benefited since the number of applicants from the EU nations to the university in the UK is likely to decrease after Brexit. Also, the weakening of pound may lower down the total cost of education for the Indian students. Furthermore, there may be decrease in international students' fees since the low fee structure for EU students may be withdrawn. It has to be noted that EU students were availing fees concession which are being cross subsidized by higher international students' fees. So that there are many pros and cons on this aspect. So this is all small things from my side. I wish this seminar conference will be good success and other speakers will definitely deliberate their views. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Achyuta Samantji. Valuable, very valuable inputs there. And I would like to do a check and see if Honorable MP Shri Priyanka Chaturvedi ji is online or her office is online here. Okay, Sujit, I guess there is a slight delay from Shri Priyanka Chaturvedi ji's office.
Okay, I'll get that checked.
Okay. In the meantime, are there any questions? Because we did get an opportunity to ask a question to Lord Moylan earlier. And would there be any questions for Dr. Achyuta Samantaji and Ms. Ursa Pondelek? Dr. Jitendra, would you have any questions? No, okay. Sevakji?
Yeah, I can ask, Madam, a small question. What I heard you that India-EU trade has gone down. We were from 9th to become 10th. We are just 2% of the total trade. But what I know, there are lots of European companies who have a good base in India, and a lot of them, whether they are car makers from Germany or whether some products from France, and lot of companies are doing so well. So why is it that the trade you believe is getting hampered in this?
Well, I believe one of the reasons is probably the COVID pandemic, which has caused a significant economic downturn in the whole world. So this is one reason. And second reason is also that companies that are there have faced some difficulties with termination of bilateral investment treaties. And that's why some of them have not expanded their production as they wish to. So maybe this would be the two main reasons.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely possible.
Arun, if I may, I have a question.
Please, Uday. Yeah.
One second, Uday, I think Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi will join us in another 2 minutes. So she's just, she should be joining another couple of minutes.
Sure, we
Thank you,
will
Sujit.
just wait.
You can ask a question, Uday. You can ask a question.
Ms. Pondelek, thank you for a great insights on EU-India trade. Quick question on the priority list. Where do India stand for European trade relations? In what position is in India? Is it between 1 and 5? How important is India for EU?
For the EU, I mean, between 1 and 5, it's in my view number 1, because with all other countries or blocks of countries, there are negotiations alive and going on. For example, with the African continent, we have economic partnership agreements, and now the renewed agreement, which is called post-Cotonou. So negotiators are active and meeting regularly. They just concluded this post-Cotonou agreement, but also economic partnership agreement with 6 group of Africa, Caribbean, and Pacific countries are ongoing. European Union has concluded last year trade and investment agreement with Vietnam. We are concluding investment agreement with China, then probably opening one with Taiwan. We are about to conclude the biggest agreement with any bloc in South America, the EU-Mercosur Association Agreement. Now, across the Atlantic, there will be for sure a renewed economic partnership with the US. We have the agreement with Canada. We have an agreement with Japan. So India is in a way the only one that is now left. And we really want to revive these negotiations and also explore the option, if going ahead first, maybe with the investment agreement, and then leave the trade part as a second step. This option also we wish to explore. But India is definitely a huge economic player that we now don't have active negotiations with. So it would definitely be very high on the list, and for me personally, it should be the first one.
All right, thank you very much, because UK made a commitment that India is on the priority list. So I hope EU learns as well. All right. Thank you.
Arun, Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi is online.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Ursa Pondelek, and we really honor your time and the opinions. Can I now invite our Honorable Member of Parliament and also Member of Parliamentary Standing Committee for External Affairs, Shri Priyanka Chaturvedi ji, to take the stage and express her points of view on the how will India's relationship with the EU and the UK evolve in the near future.
Thank you so much for having me on this important discussion and as part of a panel which is exploring not just Europe and UK post-Brexit, but its equations with the rest of the world. As far as India's relationship with UK is concerned, the relationship has shares common cultures, has common history. Of course, there are parts of history which are not palpable to Indians, but keeping that aside, we have a strong Indian population present in the UK, just like I would say Britain was bitterly divided between those who were pro-Brexit, anti-Brexit, remain. The same was with the Indian diaspora. Indian diaspora has played a very important role in UK, and Mr. Boris Johnson, by agreeing to come as part of the Republic Day festivities, but having to cancel it, just goes to show the commitment and the friendly relations both have been sharing with each other. And it is only bound to get stronger. And in terms of trade, we hope to see a more evolved relationship between the two sides, considering UK is our third largest partner in terms of trade. As far as UK stance vis-a-vis China is also concerned, that gives us hope in terms of cooperation on various fronts with Mr. Boris Johnson at the helm, whether it is in terms of trade, whether it is in terms of defense cooperation, whether it is in terms of strategic partnership with common problems that and common challenges that both nations face. And we're hoping to sign a free trade agreement with the UK and take this forward. And I'm very I am also of the belief that Indian diaspora will continue to play an important role in the United Kingdom. Moving on, as far as European Union is concerned, the best part of India's foreign diplomacy has been that we have maintained good equations with all our neighbors, and not just our neighbors, barring two neighbors. And that is also because circumstances dictate those. However, India's never had the first policy of reacting to aggression, and we only react when we see our border security being threatened. So as far as European Union is concerned, we enjoy good equations. And of course, the question I was listening to my panelists before me, where she spoke about not getting into a free trade agreement, but I'm very certain that there are going to be investment opportunities for both, where both sides can mutually agree on negotiating trade agreements, which will be a win-win situation for both. And I think the positive part about India's foreign policy, like I was speaking earlier, has been of cooperation and strategic commitment, and to maintaining relations with other countries. And European Union happens to be one of them. While UK and European Union nations decide, the bloc decides how to move forward, we are very certain that in individual spaces, giving respect to both, we would be able to mutually work on issues and iron out some issues to ensure that India continues to be an active participant in the growth stories of both UK as well as the European Union bloc as a bloc. And we are hoping a similar relationship as far as India is concerned, they being a part of various issues, common challenges that the world faces, especially in terms of climate change, in terms of security cooperation, defense cooperation, and strengthening our ties further in terms of, I would say, exchanges where Indian diaspora, which has contributed extensively in the US, in the UK, would also be welcomed in the European Union to be able to contribute their expertise. I'm looking at areas such as IT, human resources, etc. So Those are where we feel that there are commonalities that exist, and India has been able to maneuver in the toughest times as well. Whether we went through a unipolar phase, we went through two nations at a bipolar phase, as well as now the multipolar phase that we are uh, passing through. Challenging times where there's a lot of uncertainty that exists around Brexit too, but we're extremely hopeful that both sides, in a mature way, would be able to reach towards, while they have signed the agreement, but there would also be some issues that can be ironed out better will be done so, and India will be an equal partner with both these blocks to be able to enrich the relationships we've been nurturing over the years.
Thank you very, very much, ma'am. And that was the opinions expressed by our Honorable Member of Parliament, Shri Priyanka Chaturvedi ji. Ma'am, if you have a couple of minutes, we would like to seek if there are any quick questions. Are there any quick questions for our Honorable MP, Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi ji?
Ma'am, as things stands today, India is virtually not having any free trade agreement with any zone. We also exited the ASEAN treaty. What do you think is going to be a way forward in coming years?
As far as free trade agreements are concerned, we also need to understand that they need to be mutually benefiting both sides, and at no point should they look like benefiting one and not benefiting the other. So it has to be a win-win situation, and free trade agreement may not be the only model of reaching a win-win situation for both sides. Both sides will obviously look at how each nation gets to benefit out of it. So we are working on, of course, it would be a priority for us to reach free trade agreements, both individually with UK as well as with EU, but in a way that it benefits all sides equally. And there are no, I would say, there are no challenges that come forward or no issues that come forward. Free trade agreement, India has, I think, since 2012, we haven't really got into a free trade agreement, but considering our backdrop also happens to be about creating capacities ourselves, building capacities within the country. And while being a usually populous nation, which has a huge market and is a win-win situation for all, but what we need to also iron out are some differences where we feel that there could be a hiccup later. So it would make better that we reach at a agreement once all these hiccups are taken care of. And again, I'd reiterate, besides free trade agreements, investment agreements, various other agreements would be the priority for India, because we are, as far as UK is concerned, we are natural allies. As far as many European nations are concerned, we have been having an exceedingly friendly relationship. We have been having exceedingly friendly trade, I would say positive trade agreements. So let's look, moving forward, I'd be positive that we reach an agreement which would lead to, like I said, prosperity for all nations alike.
Thank you a lot, ma'am. धन्यवाद आपकी कीमती समय निकाल के आने के लिए. We would now like to move to our next stage that would be based on the inputs that have already been given by our senior current leaders. I would now like to move on to the panel discussion on impact of Brexit on the UK, India, and EU-India relations. I would briefly introduce each one of our leaders, 40 under 40 leaders. Dr. Jiten Sharma, he is the Managing Director and CEO of Andhra Pradesh MedTech Zone, and also Executive Director of Kalam Institute for Health Tech. So he, amongst multiple things, is also the chairman of Indian Biomedical Skills Consortium, which is an active congregation of over 40 national academic institutes. And he is played a key role in the promotion of Indo-German and Indo-Swiss trade through advance of cooperation in the complex field of medical technology. Dr. Jiten Sharma ji, welcome on board and thanks for your time. And I would also like to briefly acknowledge the presence and give an intro of Councillor Aryan Uday Areti from he's the Councillor of Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. And Aryan Uday Areti is London local government elected representative for Kensington and Chelsea Borough and is the first Indian to get elected to that position. He is the current executive member of BRICS Forum and works with the bureaucrats, MPs and MEPs on many UK, EU, India delegations and summits. So, and Aryan is also a social entrepreneur and managing director of a startup technology firm based in London. Welcome on board, Aryan, and thanks for your time. I would also, before, like to welcome Mr. Adam Pulsnik from Poland, who is another very, very eminent and upcoming leader who is now, thank you, Mr. Adam, for the time. And for several years, Adam was responsible for cooperation with investors in Łódź, that is spelled as LODZ laws, the third largest city in Poland, the fastest growing city in Europe. He worked in close collaboration with Indian businesses and played a key role in facilitation of economic relationships between India and Polish businesses. After a brief stint in the private sector, he recently returned back to the public sector to his city of Łódź as deputy mayor. What a beautiful city you have there, Mr. Adam. Welcome on board, sir. And I would like to introduce our one other panelist, Ms. Shirey Malhotra from India. She is an associate researcher with European Institute for Asian Studies, EIAS. And Shirey Malhotra is a foreign policy professional with specialization in international relations from leading British universities and associate researcher at the European Institute of Asian Studies in Brussels. And at a selection rate of only 1%, she has been amongst very few non-EU nationals to work as a Blue Book trainee at the European External Action Services, that is EEAS, the official foreign policy wing of the European Union, where she received hands-on exposure to the functioning of EU institutions and policy making. She's also 2020 South Asia Fellow at Young Professionals in Foreign Policy. Welcome on board, Shirey ji. And I would like to introduce Shri Varindra Sehwag ji, the senior editor from the Diplomatist magazine, who will now take on the stage and take the panel discussion ahead, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think it's been an honor to hear some of the great speakers who have gone before us. What I'll try to do is to slightly summarize what I heard, and then I will invite the four eminent speakers to give their views, and then we can probably open it for discussions for the end questions and further discussions between us. What I heard from our friends, that UK-India trade relationship have grown. We have got 500,000 jobs in each one of the countries. We have already had 2 rounds of joint sessions in July and October. We are moving in the direction for getting the EU-India relationship, UK-India relationship. The similar progress I heard from the madam, that things are moving. I think 2020 may have been a little bit of a washout for all of us. Things are changing. Already Indian numbers are changing. And I think it's a matter of time when like New Zealand can win and the South Korea can win and Taiwan can win. I'm sure many countries will slowly get into this, getting over the COVID issues. And this will be a business, may not become as usual at what we have been used to in the past. We will have to learn to live Like I learned to live how to live with glasses, we may have to live with masks. We may have to do more forums like what we are doing now, not being there together, but here we are together, somebody sitting in Brussels, somebody sitting in UK and in Poland, and we are still together and talking about it. I personally believe, because I had a pleasure of visiting both these continents quite often, and my personal belief is that these relationships have to go up. We are closest to Europe and UK more than to the Asian countries or to the US. I remember launching some imported Nestle Kit Kat from UK, and the packaging called off, and they showed the picture of the leaning our clock tower there, that it has come from UK. So Indians relate to everything which happens, whether it is from fashion from Paris or fashion from Italy. We have the passion for going to Switzerland. We want to have our honeymoons there. We want to do skating there. So as a life, as it unfolds, my personal belief is that we have seen so far large companies, whether they are automakers of Germany or Unilever of UK or TCS of India or Wipro or Infosys, the next explosion will happen with the MSME models, will happen with more students going, because I am aware of that lots of European countries are now starting to teach in English. There are people being hired who are supposed to teach management in English. So things are changing, and I personally believe that this century, these next 10 years, this business, which is probably for Europe is 2%, might become to double or maybe become to 10%. Similarly, in the UK, the situation will change, and I'm sure the panelists after me will try and suggest with a solid way forward so that our team of Sujit can put together a recommendation to the MPs who just talked about what we want to do for the betterment of both the countries and both the areas. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. May I now invite Dr. Jiten Sharma to start the discussions?
Hello, everyone. I hope I am audible. Although thousands of miles away, as Mr. Varindra mentioned, this is new normal, and we all hope that this normal is temporary. Let me start with some good news. I work in the field of medical technology. I make ventilators and COVID diagnostic RT-PCR kits and MRI machines. And if I am permitted to share my screen, I would only wish to share with you, if the host can please enable my screen sharing.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Yeah. I want to show you something exciting, something which is not a PowerPoint presentation.
Dr. Sharma, you are host now, sir.
Yes. I'm showing you some live CCTV cameras. As you see behind me, I run a zone, a city of 8 miles. And this city of 8 miles has hundreds of manufacturers, researchers, innovators, startups, all making medical technology. And I want to show you some live pictures from a CCTV camera that I have on my system here. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Now, I'll go to some of the screens here. This is one of my many live COVID RT-PCR diagnostic kit assembly. This assembly line uses a large number of Duquesne ultrasonic welding systems, which are housed at the back. All these systems come from European Union. And so while India is today producing, just in my zone, 500,000 RT-PCR COVID diagnostic kits, we wouldn't be able to do it, but for an assembly that's actually coming from European Union. Let me give you another example. This is my tool room for making of ventilators. You see the machines moving. The machine that just moved, if you can see my cursor, is from UK. This machine is actually from Ireland. And if you see some of my analytical lab instruments, none of them are from India. Most of them are from Germany, and some of them are from France. I can keep showing you some of these beautiful live pictures as we speak. These are my scientific laboratories, which we use for testing of medical devices. The building that you see with a conical structure, that's my implant testing center, run and operated by TÜV Rheinland from Germany. These are my hundreds of factories, each producing a different medical product, most of them having machines from EU and UK. I'll stop sharing my screen just to bring home a point that in today's world, I don't think 1% or 2% or 10% of trade actually gives the real picture. Because this machine of ultrasonic welding of COVID kits, which does 10,000 oscillations per second, allowing an Indian company to produce RT-PCR kits so that we can ship it back to UK, this machine might have been 0.001% of the entire trade, but it's actually the enabler of the whole trade. And therefore, since the globalized technologies are changing and the human interface with technologies are changing, our priorities in society are changing, we need to realize that being important of value chain is more important than claiming a share of value chain, because we don't know how the chain will flip. We don't know who will supply what to whom. And therefore, we must grow in our open-mindedness and acceptance of the fact that if a machine can create a value chain of a product which will serve global health, irrespective of whether the patient is in UK or India, that small component that triggers this is a very critical component of partnership. Now, when we started COVID diagnostic kits manufacturing, we needed something called primer and something called probe. Those who are microbiologists or biologists in this group would know that primers and probes are necessary ingredients to make an RT-PCR COVID kit. Now, somebody needs to supply us the authentic primer and probe. And guess who was that? That was a company called Eurofins and a company called Sigma, both based out of UK and Germany. So while today, UK or Germany might not be producing 500,000 COVID kits like India, they are actually enablers in what we are doing, and we are enablers in what they would be doing. And therefore, the reason why I showed you guys live pictures and not a presentation was to bring home 3 points. One, within the European Union, we need clarity on which part of European Union, which country within European Union and the UK now specializes in what. This clarity, to some extent, we have from Germany and the UK, but we struggle when it comes, for example, the ventilators require sensors. It requires valves. Now, we really don't know whether it is Netherlands, or is it Spain, or is it France. But when it comes to precision instrumentation, we know it's Germany. When it comes to testing, we know it's Germany. When it comes to biologics, we know it's UK. So a specialization identification of value chain spread across European Union and UK will be incrementally useful to our growing partnerships. Point number 2, the volume of production required in situations like pandemic may not be compatible with the workforce and the cost of the workforce in many parts of the European Union. And therefore, keeping in mind factors like pandemics, factors like cancers, which have been neglected during the pandemic for a whole year globally, because factors like orthopedic surgeries, which didn't happen across the world because the hospitals were either shut down or given for COVID care, we need to document the ingredient value chain that goes into epidemics, cancers, non-communicable diseases, and join our forces so that we can actually bring out a global partnership. And number three, European Union and institutions like ours, which is part of the government in India, could potentially create a EU, UK, India innovation corridor, which is not a routine innovation discussion, which brings in maybe once in a month specific individuals on specific projects of public importance, whether it is renewable energy, climate change, medical technology, and so on, so that we could, across this corridor, the UK, EU, India innovation corridor, could have 3 centers of excellences identified, one in European Union, one in UK, and one in India, which could coordinate these activities on a concurrent basis so that we all can rise up to the occasion when the situation demands. We did that without much of planning, more as an ad hoc during COVID, but we need to be prepared as a team. And therefore, before I hand over back to my friends, Sujit and others, let me welcome you to good times. We have had enough of frustrations, blames, criticisms. There is enough to do. There is enough to do for everyone, provided we don't start claiming a percentage share, but starting to understand that our presence in the value chain is temporary, big or small. And once we are part of that value chain, depending upon the scenarios and contexts, our extent of engagement changes, but together we stand as a stronger, bigger, more human global team. With that, thank you very much, and over to you.
Yeah, Jiten Sharma ji, can you please pass the host control to me? And I would request Ms. Anupriya to go on mute. There was some noise coming in, Ms. Anupriya. And thank you, Jiten Sharma ji.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sharma. I think what you showed about your factory and the shortages and the RT-PCR kits, it was very impressive. Very impressive to see what you showed. Let's go to Poland, and may I call on Mr. Adam to talk about his experience and what does he believe that the East European markets and the Indian markets, which are very similar, and what I have seen in my visits to Hungary and Czech Republic and some of these places have also very, very similarities in culture. How do you think that this thing can actually change and bring the business forward for both of us?
Unfortunately, we don't share the climate. I wish we had the climate in common. However, the climate is not among the similarities. However, sir, and all the honorary speakers and guests, in my opinion, Eastern Europe, Central Eastern Europe, however you name it, and Poland as its heart or its integral element, is right now in a pretty good moment. Is in a pretty good moment because of 2 reasons. One of them is the fact that paradoxically Brexit, however, I wanted to make it clear, I think that in the long run, it will have negative impact both on Europe, both on the European Union and on Great Britain, despite the illusion that short-term someone might benefit by creating bilateral agreements instead of multilateral ones. I think in the end, it will have a negative impact short term. However, we can see a process that because of some EU level regulations that especially capital that's active in the offshoring segment, it's flowing into Central Eastern Europe. Unfortunately for us, right now, Lithuania is the biggest beneficiary of the capital that's abandoning Britain from the offshoring segment. However, Poland is benefiting from those processes as well. Also, some changes in the global supply chain that were caused by the pandemic situation, they work for the benefit of economies and structures that are still cost competitive, export driven, and that have cost competitiveness in those segments, especially because of the prices of talent, prices of work, and some other factors. And Poland is such a export-driven production logistics powerhouse with significant factor of cost competitiveness, and that's why some changes, or maybe to be more precise, amendments in the global supply chain system work for our benefit, at least short term. Generally, our connection with India is very close, because I mentioned it during several speeches, that because without Indian capital, which would not be in this place where it is right now, in the times of very deep economic issues after the post-communist economic transformation, where there was double-digit unemployment, Indian company called Infosys was the first one to invest in Łódź in central Poland area, creating a huge service center, which generally changed the perception of central Poland on the investment map. And with investment of Infosys, there came another. So we owe a lot to Indian business, and this process caused unusual ties with India and besides India, another Asian countries. And relatively large, couple thousand people, Indian diaspora appeared. And we are very proud and happy that it's working and so active. Especially there is one very active member, Mr. Amit Lat, who is active in all the chambers and in many other fields. And I'm very grateful to him because he's doing a wonderful job. And I also believe that because of some processes that affected EU, global role of China in the entire trade chain, I think that there will be larger and larger space for Central European and especially Polish economic cooperation with India.
So, Adam, you believe that there will not be any added advantage to the East European countries where the India can actually go and set up factories and build it much quicker? You see, the earlier, a lot of companies of India went to UK, set up a shop, and they had the access to the Europe. Now they will have to find another country in Europe where this can be extended. And I think that gives a lot of opportunities to some of these countries where you come from.
I fully agree, sir, and that was one of my intentions. I believe that there is big space for it. However, the production segment in Great Britain was not as deep as it is in Poland, because some time ago we could notice a significant deindustrialization of Great Britain, while Poland is fully, and just maybe not fully, but to a large extent, industry driven. And I think that still the combination of factors of competitiveness and central location logistics benefits places Central Europe, and especially Poland as its larger country, as a place that has all the tools and all the resources to be such safe haven and such address for those type of activities. And I think that the role of Indian capital in this part of the world will be growing.
Thank you, Adam. Can I now invite Aryan to put up his points for all of us to continue discussions?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sevak. And I completely echo my fellow politician, Adam, about the EU structure and the UK structure. Look, I won't go specifically into numbers, but as you know, I've just asked a question to Ursa about the the priority list of India in terms of where India stands for EU trade. And she said it top of the priority. And that's very important because as long as India, in the minds of the EU governing body, would stand as a trusted business partner, that's when the collaboration starts in scientific, high-tech fields. You've just seen from Mr. Mr. Sharma about the production of the vaccines and the test kits. It's fantastic to see that India is playing a global role in fighting this battle where we all stand at the same place. So I think it's good to see that. But one thing that Member of Parliament, Mr. Samanta, just raised was the only concern I see in terms of the trade relationship is that EU tend to favor the EU companies by regularizing more and more standards rather than the international standards. So for example, there's an example that Mr. Sharma just gave about the mangoes export. So I think India has been maintaining the standards, but when it comes to regulations, I mean, standards means nothing. I mean, you could just put an additional standard and say we could just reject the import factor, and that would benefit the EU companies. So I think you should show some sympathy. Indians are known one of the best law-abiding citizens around the world, one of the best work culture that we manage, unlike the China, if you look at the work culture for workers. So I think the standards in terms of regulations, I think regularizing the standards should be a bit relaxed for India, especially in order to improve the trade standards. I think as long as the trade standards improves, I think then they can put an extra regulations for that one. And that's one thing. And look, I think EU has done a fantastic job in terms of releasing the EU Blue Card, which enables high-tech skilled employees, educationalists to go and work in Europe. And UK is now doing the same thing by bringing back the points-based immigration. So it allows people to come to UK, come to Europe to work. I think that should be enhanced. That should even create more visas for educated people to come and work. And that improves a lot of trade relationships as well. That's one thing. And finally, moving back to UK-EU exports and imports, I think India was always seen as a back office rather than the real manufacturing capabilities. I think that's a general mindset for most of the world. I know Adam just gave a fantastic example about how Infosys created a great example that they said to the whole world, look, Poland is a great place to invest. And that's where Indian capabilities come. Obviously, the economic disparities are quite huge in India. But if you look at the transformation that the country has been through after the new government, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has been fantastic. So I think, look, India in the next 30 years would define the world how democracies would rule their internal relations. So I think, I'm sure EU, India, UK, India could be one of the global's best partners, like you see Germany and France or Eastern European partners. So looking forward to that, really. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One thing I want to honestly share, and since all the member of parliaments are here, I go to US, I apply for a visa, they look at me, they test me left, right, and center, and they give me a visa for 10 years. Whether I go for a business or I go for a holiday, I got a visa. My experience in last 2 years for both traveling to Europe as well as to UK, every time I've given a very good visa, and I have to fill how many countries I visited for a UK visa. I tell you, it's a nightmare, and I'm given after that 6 months visa. I don't think that both these regions are actually trying to improve trade, improve people-to-people movement. we are still afraid of each other. And obviously, you know, when you do it, the government of India does the same, and it's not helping. This has to change. Either, you know, you can test me 3 times, 30 times, 40 times, then close it. You know, I've traveled thrice to UK, 5 times to Europe, and next time I go, I still need a 6 months visa. You know, come on, I will avoid it. No.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's a key part, because that brings people together, trade together, tourism together.
And speed, you know, just take a ticket and go. These days, you know, 8 hours I land in London, 7 hours I land in France. You know, it's so easy to travel. And then, you know, if I have to go through this, then I say, come on, yeah, leave it. You know. So my personal view, you know, I don't know how easy it is for you to put this across. Let me now call upon the great lady, Shirley, to talk about her research and talk about how things can change, you know. Welcome. You're mute.
Yes, am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, very good evening to all of you present here, and thank you to EICBI for inviting me as a panelist on this very interesting webinar alongside such distinguished other speakers. Since my vantage point has been largely in Brussels and India, I'm going to talk about Brexit's impact on EU-India relations. And I'm going to be stressing more on the geopolitical aspect of things, given my background in international relations. So in my opinion, I think Brexit is really an opportunity for India to restructure its relations with both the EU as well as the UK. You know, we know historically that it was often Britain, France, and Germany that carried the burden of European foreign and defense policy. And now with Britain out of the EU, this considerably reduces somewhat the heft of the EU, whether it's on the political front, the economic front, or the security front. And also this fracturing of Europe and, you know, the ensuing divisions in the West that we've seen. We also know how the transatlantic relationship has significantly frayed under Donald Trump's presidency. All of this have had implications for India's geopolitical environment, which has become a lot more uncertain, especially with you know, an assertive China at its borders. But what we've also seen is that Brexit has pushed the EU to introspect, not only on divisions within the European Union, but also on the EU's wider place in the world. The EU now seems to recognize that it can no longer only remain a soft or a normative power. And in 2019, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen emphasized that she wanted to give Brussels a more geopolitical role. And in fact, we are seeing an EU that's trying to step up its game by expanding its global ambitions and also attempting to add hard power dimensions to its economic power. So I would say, in a sense, we're seeing a sort of recalibration of European foreign policy taking place, as well as a more introspective and ambitious EU taking shape. Now, how does all of this impact EU-India relations, you ask? Well, as we know, the UK was traditionally India's gateway to Europe. But, you know, because whether we like it or not, the colonial past has been a fundamental anchor. But lately, what we're also seeing is that the EU and India seem to be strategically converging a lot more. You know, the contestations that have emerged between the US and China have had implications for middle powers in the global order, such as EU and India, that are now trying to navigate the space in between and trying to find their voice in this emerging order. The EU and India both now know that they can no longer rely so much on American leadership. They're both wary of, you know, Chinese efforts to unilaterally shape geopolitics, and they're looking for like-minded partners elsewhere. On China as well, we are seeing much greater EU-India alignment. You know, traditionally, both the EU and India pursued policies of cooperation and engagement with China. But last year, both India and the EU have somewhat experienced rude awakenings on China, somewhat of a change of heart. India, of course, was the recipient of a deadly border attack by Chinese troops in the Galvan Valley. In Europe, China was conducting what was being called mask diplomacy at a time when Brussels couldn't come up with an adequate response to help countries that were initially hit hard by the virus. So China has, in a sense, been opportunistically exploiting divisions within Europe. And this sounds rather similar to India's own neighborhood of South Asia, where there have been concerns of the Chinese debt trap. So both the EU and India are now re-examining their relationships with Beijing and also trying to diversify their partnerships to balance it. And as a result, I would say the EU-India strategic partnership that has historically struggled to move beyond trade and economics is finally becoming strategic. We can see the importance the EU places on India in many of its policy documents now. I would say the 2018 EU strategy on India is really a game changer in this regard, because it seems to view India no longer from a peripheral lens, but more as a central partner. Crucially, I would say the strategy calls India a geopolitical pillar in a multipolar Asia that's important for maintaining the balance of power in the region. And this is really quite a long way from the 2016 EU global strategy, which primarily viewed India from the prism of economics. And I would say, while all of this is not a direct consequence of Brexit, the fact is that Brexit is happening alongside much greater EU-India strategic convergence. In fact, since the referendum in 2016, India has become a priority country for both the EU as well as the UK to work with. The appetite for cooperation in Brussels since then has substantially increased. And even within India, External Affairs Minister Jai Shankar has said that he places relations with the EU as a top priority. And against this, positive momentum and backdrop, the EU-India summit took place last year virtually. And I think it couldn't have happened at a better time, when imagination and political will are a lot stronger on both sides. And a multitude of issues were discussed, ranging from greater multilateral cooperation to setting up a ministerial dialogue on trade, to climate change. So finally, I think India is realizing the benefits of working and dealing with the European Union as a counterpart, in addition to its strong relations with many EU member states. So Brexit, I would say, has been an opportunity for India to better integrate with the continent, and this is indeed what seems to be happening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Arun, we are doing well on time, right?
A time check, we are doing well there. You can carry on and have cross-section of questions, because multiple points.
Yes,
Please
that's what I was thinking. So can I now open the forum for questions from the audience? We'll be happy. You can put it on the chat box, or you can come online and say it. And by the time you think your questions, I can try and say something on the way we are going. In my 40 years of industry career, one thing I have seen, this works on integration and disintegration. You see, if you look at the models earlier, we started to make ASEAN, Europe, EU came into existence, South America trade bloc came into existence, South Asia came into existence. When the going is good, everything goes well. When the times become tough, the things start to get here and there, and people run helter-skelter. End of the day, it is the family, the good and the bad. We have to all learn to live with each other. That's the only way this business models can go forward. I now open the questions from the audience.
If there are no questions, I would also like to call upon the panelists themselves to seek, because multiple perspectives have now come into picture. So would any one of you want to ask any additional questions? If not, then I would also like to call upon our delegates to come on board and introduce themselves, because one of the points of conducting this mini summit is also to create the networking. So why don't you, Bhartiji Man, if you have time, or Gunjan, can you also introduce yourself here, Gunjan Lodha?
Okay, so in that case, Arun, let's continue our discussions. I will start talking to Aryan. Aryan, what do you think we can do to take this forum of discussion to the next level? Can we include some of the MSMEs of your area where you are there, and we can have some of the industry, because we'll have to start to break it down. We'll have to take education, talk about education, because I personally believe that education in UK will become significantly more important, because both America and Australia is getting into some kind of a difficulties now because of the turbulence, the way they are seeing it. So UK next sessions will become important for the Indian students. Now, can we start to think of a session generated through on these similar lines to focus only on, say, education? Mute, you're mute.
Yeah, yeah, on me. Yeah, thank you, Varendraji. Absolutely, I think if you look historically, I mean, going back to Shirey's point, she made a very valid point. The colonial history is a bit emotional, but I think we have to move away from the colonial history.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's all history.
Yeah, it's all history. Back then, you see a lot of people came to the UK for education. They settled down. They became business owners, and it's funny that I was speaking to another person who wanted to come to the UK and to study, but for some reason his visa got rejected. So his gateway to UK was from Poland. So he studied in Poland, married a Polish girl, so they moved to the UK. So I guess some way or the other, there's a connection to Europe and to the UK, but the ultimate destination for majority of the Indians would prefer to stay in the UK just for the fact because of the history and also English. But incredible transformation within the Eastern Europe, especially than the Western Europe, is that when I traveled to any of the Eastern Europe, everyone could speak English. It could be Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, name what, Lithuania, Latvia, and everything. So I think if you look at the recent courses being taught in English, a lot of majority of the students come outside Europe rather than within the Europe, especially for the English courses. I think that's a big change in terms of attracting Indians, especially for the European Unions. I think so. In terms of the policy making for the EU and obviously the UK is fully English. There's no issues with that. I think EU can then probably move away from the local languages and teach English for their courses. That would be good attraction for India. In terms of the UK, I think there's lots need to be done in terms of the educational relations with India. I understand, they come here, they have a 2 years visa to do it, but I think if you look at the European program, what do you call it? Where the exchange program, there's something called the exchange. There's a technical word for it. Erasmus. Sorry, Erasmus. You're right. I think those kind of schemes should be introduced with the Indian universities, so that you're not physically moving your country, but you're in collaboration with another university. So that you don't technically need a visa to come and spend a lot of money to do that. So a lot of movements between the students would happen that way. I think that's something that the EU and the UK should probably come up with, a joint venture partnership with Indian universities or the Indian colleges or Indian institutions. I think that would be a very good policy to attract people, but also to have a cross section of the EU and the UK students to go and experience India as well. That's my opinion.
Adam, would you like to add something?
You pretty much exploited the topic. There's not that much to add. I just wanted to say that, in my opinion, and from what I see in recent months, and not only months, but also years, in my opinion, India, having in mind its capacity, potential, is actually has no alternative to global trade and to participate and make its input and share in a global economy and supply in global supply chains higher and higher. In my opinion, because of what's happening with China, and in my opinion, the US will keep its, let's say, reserved course towards China. In my opinion, it creates huge spaces for India. I can say from a Polish perspective that the cooperation was always very good. The fact that India, its world's biggest democracy, definitely makes the cultural element closer and the dialogue in many elements easier. So I see that some processes that have started will be deepening. And from what I see, having in mind not only Infosys, but also Tech Mahindra, WNS, and other global Indian companies that circulate around Polish economy, not as outsourcing destination, but they make foreign direct investments in Central Europe. So it means that they are fully mature global corporate entities. It's a sign of its own. So I just keep my fingers crossed for those ties to be even more tightened. I don't see an alternative course. And Poland is a growing economy that has still not developed corporate entities sufficiently strong to conquer global markets. In my opinion, its prosperity is dependent to a large extent on both global trade, and second, the willingness and ability of global corporate entities to enter our market and stimulate growth by those processes. So seeing no alternative, I just will keep my fingers crossed for the process to be going as quickly and as smoothly as possible.
Thank you, Adam. Dr. Jiten, I want to throw a challenge. I want you to become the largest manufacturer of what you're producing in the world. What do you need from EU and the UK to do it for you?
To become the biggest is not our goal. To become valuable is our goal. So I wouldn't take this challenge at all. But if you tell me if we can be a good team to support manufacturers of key medical products, these startups. I recently met a startup from Germany who is co-investing here in our campus. There are only 3 companies in the world that make a pacemaker. This startup out of a university would be a 4th one. And I would really convert your challenge into an opportunity by building a team where we can support these startups doing exciting work for human health across the EU and India, to put them on a value chain roadmap where they can do R&D, we can do the manufacturing, they can do manufacturing, we can supply key ingredients, we can design the prototypes, and they can supply us the circuits depending upon our strengths. So we need very specific examples to prove the wisdom that all of us are sharing. And I think if there is something that can tell the world how powerful this congregation is and how powerful the vision behind this gathering is, it would be those specific examples and outcomes that we can bring in next 2 years.
Dr. Jiten, you heard the Madame Priyanka. What did she say? She said, it will only be win-win for both of us, both the parties, then the things go. What I meant, what I was trying to push you for, to propose a value proposition. By saying I will help you to do it, it really doesn't work. My son doesn't listen to me if I go and tell him like that. We need to create a business proposition for UK or for EU country. In EU there are so many countries. You'll have to really find a partner and then take this forward, because it'll be nice that your technology takes these products and manufacturing, because You see, today it is COVID, tomorrow it will be something else. You know, we already are talking about some pork diseases happening in China, which is in the news. So, and some recently we had the bird flu. So I think the world will continue to face such challenges. And what I meant to drive you was to say, to put through a blueprint so that it could be then taken to a very different level. That's all I was suggesting.
Absolutely. No, you are right. And that's why I mentioned in my remarks earlier also that what you are saying is extremely right. But the requirement from a human health and medical technology is very dynamic. As you rightly mentioned, we don't know what's coming in. And in fact, we don't know even what is with us at the moment with neglected tropical diseases, cancers, and so on. And therefore, we need platforms in UK, EU, India as nodal points that can engage with partners based on those specific examples as we come across them.
Dr. Jiten, the biggest problem now the industry is facing is overweight, like I am. You know, find some vaccine that weights can go down. You know, you will become a winner of the world, no? Jokes apart, Dr. Malhotra, you have some points to add?
I'm going to add something on the previous question that you asked regarding students. I think that's a really important point. I think the EU in general needs to increase its visibility in India through, better public diplomacy, because what I've noticed is there's not enough awareness or knowledge about the EU in India at all. Of course, the UK doesn't suffer from this problem, but the EU, given that it's such a complex supranational institution that sits above all these 27 member states, there really isn't much knowledge at all. Member state knowledge definitely exists in India. India's got great relations with France, in particular, with Germany as well. But like when I first moved to Brussels in 2015 to work, and when I told people I'm going to work in Brussels because it's the capital of the EU, they were like, "Oh, what is the EU?" Even amongst well-educated Indians, I would say, who are very well-versed with politics, who are very well-versed with India's foreign relations with the US, with China, with the UK. But the EU really seems to be in the public eye totally on the back burner. And even in Brussels, when I first moved initially in 2015, there was hardly any talk of India. Now that has substantially changed in the last 2-3 years, especially with Brexit, with the with relations with the US fraying, with problems with China coming up. There's definitely a lot more focus on India now. But that too, I feel, seems to be more only at the very high levels. Amongst the public, understanding is still low. So I still think students are the best way for both the EU and India to conduct public diplomacy through better outreach, etc., to raise awareness in each other's constituencies, etc. I mean, the EU is one of the greatest examples of political and economic integration, even with Brexit, right? And in India, we could really do with examples like that, given how South Asia is the least integrated region in the world, given how SAARC is constantly floundering because of India's relationship with Pakistan. So I think there's so many lessons to learn from EU integration at both a political and an economic level, but it really needs to start with better awareness and knowledge. That's where I'll stop.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If there is no other comment, I would like to summarize the discussion of today and we can call it a day. Arun, is that okay?
Yeah, is it possible, Mr. Adam did bring out the investments Indian companies have made in Europe in setting up captive centers and all. And as you're aware, the Lord Moylan earlier also spoke about UK becoming more and more services oriented than earlier 70 years ago, where it was dependent more on the mining and minerals and manufacturing. So when you look at it from that particular angle, and India is also becoming quite strong in technology, and Are there any comments from the panelists on the directions in which you see this moving, especially the technological innovations?
I just have one question, query / submission. In terms of intellectual property and patent filings,
yeah.
Which is very easy now because it's EU patent. Brexit, what challenges does it throw? Not on the prospective patents which are yet to be filed, but the patents who have been filed and have not crossed their 20-year period. How would we share that intellectual property?
I think so. I had the same issue, Mr. Sharma. So in terms of the patent, because when you filed before the 31st, before the transition period, it's valid throughout the EU states, including the UK. After the transition period, I guess you would get 2 certificates that would be valid, unless it's a new one where you have to file separately for UK and EU. But I think there would be a provision that will come in to the scene very soon, or probably would have come in very soon.
I think there's clarity on the past patents which are still alive and are being used by the industry for production is extremely critical at this point in time.
That's still alive. That's still alive now. That's still alive.
Yep, wonderful. I think so. Let me try and summarize the discussion for the day so that.
Sorry, this is Prem here from Pondelek.
Yep.
If I can make one quick submission, if I may, with
Yeah,
regards
please.
to innovation exchange, and also we spoke about entrepreneurship and also in terms of education. I think from a COVID perspective, what was all translated into is it is a global economy, coming together digitally, right? So especially on the student fold, what we have witnessed is students are, in simple terms, students from various universities are coming together outside after they come out of the college and try and create something new. Now, with all this innovation exchange happening, relaying some of the conversations and also in terms of centers of excellence that Mr. Sharma did mention that we could create across UK, India, and Europe. My humble submission is we need to explore the opportunity of bringing the various universities where we can try and bring in innovation exchange right at the college level to create spin-offs coming from colleges across EU, India, and UK coming together, wherein you have an idea coming out of a European Union university, but they could have co-founders or co-creators from India and UK. So that will really fuel innovation exchange. That's my humble submission.
Yeah, great.
Very good point. Very good point. Thank you.
Very good point. I think this is what the Germany corporate structure aligns with the education sector, where they're bringing from outside. I think that's something. You're right, Prem. I think that's a great policy in the education sector that would really boom both India, EU, and the UK.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, one other thing, if I also make one other submission is, when we are speaking to the FCDO or the FCO earlier, not many institutions in India or other ways know of the UK export finance that is available with the UK. All they have to do is, if there's a multi-million pound project or whatever be it, as long as a company, irrespective of where they are from, and in this case, India or European Union, if they're able to kind of demonstrate that 20%, just 20% of the products or the services are coming out of the UK government will be able to provide substantial finance at 0% for many years. So not many people really know about this, right? So we had to actually work with the FCDO, the Foreign Commonwealth Office, and create webinars to bring that to bear for our own incubatee companies or our own startups in our portfolio. And this quite nicely segues to what we spoke in terms of UK becoming a services-oriented economy. And it only makes sense because you just need to demonstrate 20% from the UK. And that's what innovation exchange is all about. And you're talking about, let's say, a 10 million pound project or a 100 million pound project, and the UK government backing it at 0% interest. That's huge. I'll stop there.
Thanks for bringing that out, Prem. And with your permission, Sehwagji, I would, because we still have a couple of minutes, anyone else, because we would also like to promote networking here and also seek opinions. A lot of people are here.
We didn't see you.
This
We
was
should have seen your picture as well, no? You're making such good points. Didn't put your video on. Yeah.
I could very well do that. I didn't want to scan you all the way, so now you see me, right? So, there are two things that are uncontrollable in the UK right now. One is the virus itself. Second is the growth of hair. So, yeah, that's the point. So,
yeah, you can see Mr. Modi and be happy about it. You can't grow more than that. So it's all right.
That's where I draw my inspiration from, sir.
Well, more than that, the weather as well. So
yeah, no, it's been interesting, really interesting discussions, and I'm sure the organizers can take it forward. What I liked about Lord Moylan saying about that the UK has moved from the manufacturing economy to actually service-oriented, global integrated services, banking and many others, what surprises me that everything goes on and pound sterling keeps getting stronger and stronger, and we have to spend more Indian rupees to go there and and buy a ticket or a sandwich, so that continues to be a challenge. But I think he made strong points, and what I liked about the whole deliberation he did, that we still, despite all the problems, we grew by 11%, which was very nice. We created 500,000 jobs. I think that's another one. And I think we are closer to UK in terms of having some kind of a trade agreement or trade understanding. So I personally believe, and which is what I have seen in my imports business, which I've been doing for Nestle for South Asia. You see, it's about company to company business. You see, industry, like we had lots of factories in Asia, and we were importing a lot of those products. But it was very difficult for us to ship many products from India to Asian countries. It was very little. In fact, if you look at the story of the Asian treaty or a treaty with Korea, it was mainly products coming from these countries to India. Very little actually went out. Yeah. Things started to change. Today, now India has become the largest exporter of small cars and small car parts. So today, if you are trying to see the game, like, what Dr. Jiten showed, that, he has created all these ventilators, we were not making them. Yeah. They were not required in the numbers. So I believe that the points, the way the evolution of Indian industry is taking place today. You see, we never had so many startups, and there was no Flipkart to challenge Amazon, so you can see those kind of new challenging opportunities are coming. And what we need is more focused discussions to overcome the Madam Ursa's problem that we are only 2% and a 10th trading partner for EU. I believe this needs to change. I'm sure we'll have to do more focused discussions, maybe do more sector specific discussions, find out what's happening, and then go back to your governments to do practical one. Because I'll give you one example. India still is not able to import pet food from US. Because when we were making the rules for the pet food, we actually followed the European rules. And European rules are stricter than the US rules. So the way it happened that some of the words which were to be given on the veterinary certificates, even today we have not been able to sort out with the US. What amazes me, that same US company can supply to Europe with the same certificate, because Europe also asks for the same certificate from the US manufacturers. But when it comes to India, we are not able to get it. So these are some of those bottom line problems which actually hampers the trade. Sometimes we talk about that industries are not meeting, the ministers are not meeting. It's not the minister who actually decides. It starts from the joint secretary and the under secretary, the low level, and actually the industry forums goes and creates these problems. I think that's, if we can do on a smaller level, my friend, it'll make a lot of changes. Believe me, it'll make a lot of changes. It's about step by step clearing things. This is how I believe in this, and maybe you could help.
Sevak sir, I would like to add a point here. Mr. Adam is here.
Yeah.
So the example of textiles, apart from the textiles, Mr. Adams, Poland, given that Indo-Polish Chamber of Commerce and Industry is working very closely between India and Poland, there have been the certification problems have been overcome, and the new trade channels have been created. And I've seen a lot of textiles trade happening because of a specific initiative in between the countries also, apart from on the larger EU scale. And Mr. Adam also took Mr. Amijit's name. So all these people, people like them also are working at an individual and country to country level. Thanks for adding up. Please, sir, over back to you.
Thank you very much. If there is any other comment, because we are coming closer to our closing time, I think I really enjoyed the deliberation. I enjoyed the openness. I enjoyed the honesty. You know, the talking about issues openly can only solve them. Hiding behind the scene, you know, like Madam Malhotra made a point, or what the all the four honorable MPs made the point, or we have been able to do. I don't know what's the next step, Sujit. Is that you're going to write to the government of what this is what we summarized, or how are we going to move forward into this discussion?
Sujit might have stepped out for a little while.
No, he's there.
But is there, Sujit?
Sujit must be there. It's very difficult to keep him out of such conversation.
Sorry, I shouldn't have.
Yeah, we have planned a series of the primary intention of these mini summits is so it started is to showcase our 40 under 40 leaders and their capabilities. Dr. Jitendra was from the class of 2019, and the rest of the three are from class of 2020. So now this is a continuous process. And what we have today is expression of opinions, which will now get into the recommendations and mini publications that can create conversations around them. And we have planned a series of monthly session mini summits. So that is where by end of April, we would have gone across the cross section of all of our 40 under 40 leaders, 40 of them. And by the time we would have started to influence the or bring attention to some of these points pointed out by our future leaders. That is the intent. And thank you, Sevak sir, for conducting such a lovely panel discussion.
Thank you.
And I will now take time to thank Sujit, the chairman of European Center for Business and Industry, for having taken the lead in creating this chain of mini summits. And I would like to thank Lord Moylan and Councillor Aryan Uday Areti for the delivery of the point of view from Lord Moylan and from the time. And I would like to thank Ms. Ursa Pondelek from the Policy Advisor on EU and Relations. Thank you very much, ma'am, for taking time out again. And you did bring out many discussions today that is an inspiration, and we will be getting back in touch with you. And I would like to thank our members of Parliament, Shri Achyuta Samanta ji, and also Shri Priyanka Chaturvedi ji, who is also now the member of the Parliamentary Standing Committee on External Affairs, for their time and for their expression of points. And also like to thank a few other, all the delegates who took time to join. And any questions that we have not been able to respond or you have in mind, please email them to the same email ID. And I'd like to thank our four leaders, Councillor Aryan Uday Areti, Shri Jiten Sharma ji, and Mr. Adam Pulsnik and Shirey Malhotra ji for your time and explanatory point of view.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. See you soon. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. I would now, Aryan, with your permission, I'd conclude the session.
Yeah. Are we staying online, Arun?
No, we're concluding the session. Thanks a lot. And I'd also like to thank the interns who have helped us in this particular process. The interns from internship.
Maybe list out the names, Arun. It would be
yeah.
good.
Can you please come online and that is Ritika. Say hello. Hi, and Nicole, Priya, and Anupriya ji, can you also come on board, please, and say hello? Wave.
Hello to everybody. Hello.
Hi. Thank you very much for the great. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It was a great opportunity to be here and to hear the great leaders speak on various aspects related to Brexit. I hope we are able to bring out some good articles out of this great discussion which happened today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Nicole.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for such a wonderful discussion. Probably we might not have ever landed in such type of in-depth discussions and this type of conversations. Thank you for the opportunity for giving this to internship and to the interns also, because of which we are collaborated with EICBI. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ritika ji. And Anupriya and Priya ji, would you also like to express your thanks?
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was great listening to a lot of people whom I would not have met otherwise this summit. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anupriya ji.
Thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity. I learned a lot of things I may not be able to learn, if I was not here working with internship and EICBI.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And in case we did forget someone whom we have not been able to acknowledge here, and whenever we do remember, we will surely reach out.
We'll share them on the social media. I mean,
social media.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much.